Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Reckoning of Roku chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 52, which is called Leverage. Once again, YouTube channel membership is enabled on the channel if you'd like to help support, and subscribing also helps. So this is the big Roku Sozin chapter where they finally get to talk to each other here. The truth kind of revealed to a certain degree, and it's super interesting because it is a very different dynamic now in this chapter compared to what it was the last time they spoke. And it mainly speaks to how much Roku has grown over the course of this book. That Roku's arc, while a little bit more simple, has been a super important one. And we're really beginning to see Roku kind of become Avatar Roku, especially I think in how he handles this situation here. So, yes, it is the morning. Sozin is about to depart for the capital with Kozaru and Dalasai, but he goes up to speak to Sozin. He's sitting on top of the roof of the hut that he's recovering in. Roku airbends up there, nearly falls off, so we reference that dynamic again. Sozin saves him again. I need more practice. Sozin does note that the island is beautiful without all the fog. Too bad it's hard to reach. And then what we do is we get straight into the thing of like, okay, you want to know, like, how much did I actually know when I asked you to come out here? And so Roku's like, sure. How much did you know? And Sozin says, more than I let on. I had learned about a fog-covered island where benders could train to enhance the strength of their bending, and I came here with Kozaru and Dal to check it out. And we found earthbenders, not some random patrol. I knew that if I tried to get them to leave myself, it might have turned into something bigger. With both his father and the Earth Kingdom, of course. Roku decides for now not to mention the idea of the two earthbenders who he knows kind of disappeared, were killed earlier on. That he basically figures out that that's what's kind of gone on here. Roku asks, was Ta Min aware of any of this? Sozin says, no, she only knew what I told her to tell you, basically. But then Sozin's like, and you're welcome, by the way, for me sending Ta Min to you, because I figured it was the only way to get you two to talk. So that's a funny detail. But he goes on and says, it wasn't until later I found out that the enhancement was limited to the cave, and that the natives were eager to murder all trespassers. He does say bloodthirsty natives. Roku's like, don't call them that. Like, they're just people who want to live in peace like the rest of us. They're no more bloodthirsty than any other group of people. And Sozin's just like, I didn't mean anything by it. So Roku's like, how did you find out the truth? You won't believe it, but the spirit library. And so we get the reaction of Roku to be like, oh wow, you're serious? It's real? It is? It is real. What did you learn while you were there? Roku asks. And then we get an interesting response, which is that Sozin says, not much. I had to leave pretty quickly after I realized I needed to go save you. So, as we learned in like a bunch of chapters ago, Sozin plans to use those techniques to kind of in a way get himself to be as powerful as the Avatar. So, interesting that while he's explaining his lying to Roku, he adds another lie on top of that by not explaining that he learned about all these firebending techniques here. So, you know, if they were still best friends, if Sozin still considered him that way, surely he would tell Roku about at least some of these things, but he doesn't say anything. He says, I'm sorry for lying just after lying and trying to take advantage of you. I don't suppose there's anything I can do to make you forgive me. And Roku thinks about this and it's like, oh wow, forgiveness as a bit of a transaction, but I guess I'm the Avatar now, I should take advantage of this myself. I can use this as leverage against Sozin. And he's like, two things. First of all, like, I know Taiso is all about, you know, countering the Outer Island Rebellion and stuff like that, but let the Lombok clan continue to live as they always have. Let them remain independent. And Sozin's like, live as they always have. Does that include the killing the outsiders part? And Roku's like, no, not that part. He argues, like, I'm not Fire Lord yet. How can I make this happen? And Roku's just like, you know, convince your father that, you know, it's something about protecting the wild hog monkeys or the gorilla tarsiers. I don't know. I know it's, you know, I know you can do anything if you put your mind to it. You'll make it happen. That's what I want. So he's like, okay, true enough, I'll find a way. The second thing then is that Roku kind of explains his kind of new philosophy on things. He says, if more people thought like the air nomads, we might be able to move towards real peace. What the world has now feels more like a long pause between wars, doesn't it? With no open conflicts between the four nations. So much progress has been made. But also, I wonder what kind of arsenals are being built behind closed doors. It's like we're standing at the base of a dormant volcano. And that's super interesting because that is what the Roku era will basically be. This Cold War situation of the nations kind of building up, trying to grab resources where they can, building arsenals ahead of a potential conflict in the future. And it's in a way setting the stage for like, okay, what does the Fire Nation do to suddenly advance their technology above everyone else to such a crazy degree? And we'll get there, of course. But it is Roku having a pretty good assessment of the world. That basically Kiyoshi has created a situation where none of the nations are outwardly going after each other. And we're now at this, like he says, pause. She has kept peace, but it's allowed all this stuff to build up in the background. And I have to be aware of that and be prepared to deal with, things that might evolve into greater conflicts. So Sozin's like, what are you proposing exactly? Let the airbenders open a temple in the capital, a place where they can teach others about their philosophy. If it goes well, maybe they could open more temples in the other nations. And Sozin's like, did your new little friend put you up to this? And Roku sensed a twinge of jealousy behind Sozin's words here. So the idea that Roku does have another friend here who he's quite close to, Sozin is a little bit jealous of that. That's interesting. And Sozin's like, okay, if I make these two things happen, we're good. Roku nods. At least until the next time you lie to me. And the two of them start laughing here. They kind of shove each other. Sozin winces, clutching his stomach, the stab wound from Malaya. And Roku's like, are you okay? Just still recovering is all. But Roku's kind of like, did he take a more serious injury that I didn't know about? And obviously Sozin is being quite cautious about this one because this is he murdered Malaya. And that's where he got that wound as the kind of counterattack for that. But Sozin says, Yasu would be proud of you. You think so? I know so. And then we end the chapter with this, I think, interesting assessment from Roku, sort of himself and his relationship with Sozin. As pleasant as it was to be with his friend again and to have come through the conflict with their relationship intact, there was no denying something between them had shifted. Roku was a different person now, or rather, he'd moved closer towards becoming his true self. Who knows what Sozin had gone through? They still fit together closely enough for now, but maybe there would come a day when they no longer did. Maybe that would be in a few years, maybe a few decades. This notion had crossed his mind several times since he was identified as the Avatar, but Roku finally believed that he no longer needed Sozin in the same way he once did. And that is super, super important. I think this book has done a really good job of getting across this idea that in the past, Roku truly did need Sozin in his life. If he didn't have Sozin, who knows where Roku would be kind of right now. Sozin is a super important friend that he had, especially in those earlier years, post-death of Yasu, even before that, of Sozin, always defending him, especially since the death of Yasu, obviously. But now, because of Roku's development in this book, he has developed to the point where he is becoming that Avatar Roku. He's showing his potential on his own, and he got there without needing Sozin to be involved in it throughout this situation. He realizes he can have other friends outside of Sozin and it be just as good. And it's a bit of a contrast to the Sozin situation where he continues to go down the road of not trusting anyone, not getting any more friends, and focusing on Roku as being the only friend he has kind of left for him. And it very much is that idea of who suffers more from their kind of friendship going a little bit apart. It ultimately is Sozin who suffers a little bit more because you get the sense that Sozin is the one who kind of needs Roku to kind of keep him in check a little bit, especially now, more so than the other way around. And I think that's definitely one of the most successful parts of this book is just presenting these two characters, this friendship, the Avatar and the Fire Lord, in giving nuance, extra details to the earlier part of their relationship, to give extra context to the later part of their relationship. And of course, some key things coming out of this. Roku, the spirit of all nations, advocates for the Lombok clan here to be independent going forward. That's really good. That's the whole point of this book, is that he makes a move that is basically, I'm from the Fire Nation, but I also understand that this needs to be independent from the Fire Nation. It's always going to be a Fire Island, but, you know, they will be independent. That's important. But then the other side, also on the spirit of no or all nations, he realizes the importance of the air nomads in the world, and that maybe if we all learned a little bit more from them, we'd be in a better situation. Open up a temple in the capital. And this is obviously a big setup for the RPG material, which is basically like in 12 years from now, effectively. This will be a huge thing within the Fire Nation, that this temple and what it does to especially the youth of the Fire Nation actually has a major impact. Sozin thinks it won't do much, and we'll address it in upcoming chapters as well. But it actually will begin to take root, and it will be something that Sozin actually needs to deal with. And he already doesn't like the air nomads, as we know. We've got that presented here. So this is actually going to become a bit of a thorn in his side here. And he's kind of surprised that this is a pretty minimal thing, but it's actually going to be very, very major overall. But otherwise, I think the main thing to highlight here is just Sozin lying while, like, explaining away why he lied in the first place. Like, that's telling of who he is, I think. But it's well written, I think, is the big thing here. So I think very good chapter here with the friendship between the two kind of key characters. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this chapter. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.